Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of This Life, a podcast by Mayorca Media. I am your host, Felix Mayorca, as always. This episode is sponsored by Popl. That's popl.co. If you are watching the video podcast, you can see on the back of my phone, I have a Popl, and I always have a Popl there. Popl is the new way to share your information, and we all know that. I constantly preach it, I constantly talk about it, and I constantly use it, actually. I was actually, last week, I was kind of in a bind. I was asked for a business card. Didn't have one, totally blew it. I usually walk around with them, and I didn't this time. So what I did is I pulled up my phone, I asked them to unlock their phone, put the phone behind theirs, and you hear that little noise, popped up, and they had all my information. It's super easy. I mostly use it for a backup, but I might start using it like as my main source of a business card. It's just too dope, and people get super stoked on it. So again, that's popl.co. Go to popl.co and use code ThisLife. You get 20% off. I just checked on my little app, and it says 20% off all listeners of This Life with code ThisLife. Today I have on the podcast a gentleman named Danny Quesada. He is a real estate agent from here in San Diego. I met up with him to shoot some stuff. We've worked together a couple times, and he's just a cool dude. He's very positive. I've seen him work with individuals, and he's not that salesman type of person that, you know, he just wants to get his commission check. You know, he really wants people to find their, if not their forever home, their temporary home for 10 years, 15 years. And I really admire that. I admire someone who can work for people instead of just work for money. Danny's that guy. Danny's that guy you kind of want on in your corner, cheering for you. So we talk a little bit about the real estate game. We talk a little bit about motivation, how he stays motivated. I throw him in the hot seat. And yeah, we just kind of ramble on and on about life. And we had lunch afterwards, and he's just a delight, man. I love having people like that as clients. I love having them just as people around me, as friends. And hopefully you learn something. Hopefully you get a little insight. Maybe if you're trying to be, I guess, a business owner, or if you're trying to start something yourself, you can get something out of this podcast. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And make sure you subscribe, leave 5 stars, leave a review. That really helps me out. I truly appreciate all of you that have been listening thus far. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome. Danny, I'm sitting with the name is Danny Quesada.
Danny Quesada.
How are you?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm great. I'm stoked we finally got to do this. I know we've been kind of talking about it. We kind of started working together when this was kind of new. And it's just kind of weird looking back on where kind of we both were. Yeah. And now I see you just like selling houses left and right. What do you do?
I'm a real estate agent, and my job kind of encompasses a lot of different things. And I think when you and I originally met, I was trying to figure out what route I wanted to take, right? We just started a new business from working for like a secure salary type job. At least that's what my background was. And now venturing off into working for myself. And so, yeah, I think my functions are like, there's a bunch. My jobs are all over the place. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I'm stoked to be on and stoked to talk about that transition. And it's funny when seeing you grow, and then how I grew since then, and what I know now that I didn't know then, and how scared we both were. always talking like, man, this is still the best decision ever, although I'm scared.
Yeah. Yeah. And I ran into one of my old friends, Austin, from high school, and I was shooting something just down the street with my friend Sergio, who was also on the podcast. If you want to listen to that episode, go check out the archives. But I kind of had like a moment of like realization of like, oh, not everyone knows this kind of work for yourself life. Like, we all hear about it, and you see the YouTube ads like,
oh, for sure,
if you want your business to make, some guy without a shirt on, like ripped, if you want your business to make 6 figures, you know. And he comes up to me and goes, how do you know this guy? He's so good, like he's so talented. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I just kind of met him one day. Yeah. And he's like, it's just, that's crazy though, but like, how did you meet him? I mean, how you meet people, you just go up to them and say, hi, I'm Felix. And
yeah. And
then I was like, why is that so strange? And he was just kind of like, I don't know, it's just mind blowing, man. Like you're working right now. Like that's your work. And I was just like, yeah, I guess you're right. In your journeys, kind of, have you met just the most random people? I mean, you and I have met randomly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that what kind of trips me out is just the opportunities. Like, man, I get to sell this house to this family that they're going to stay in for the next 10 to 15 years. Like that every day I'm like, that's my job. That is a sick job. Now, everything, the work behind it is where it differentiates people. I think some people are like, oh, you know, if Danny can do it, I can do it. I get more people reaching out about becoming a real estate agent. And I'm like, guys, it looks all fun because we glamorize these type of things on social media. And we're like, hey, you know, sold this house to this great family. Thanks for trusting me. But there's so many things that you have to do day to day that have to be consistent and that are mundane, boring, and not something that you'd be comfortable with, like talking to strangers. Like you just mentioned, like I just introduced myself to this guy. I have to do that on a daily basis to get set up for the next year.
Right.
And the day I stop doing that, I'm out. Like someone else is going to do it and going to take my job. So I guess you kind of have to build your own security. Yeah. You know what I mean? And people I've met through the real estate industry is just, I think what's surprised me the most is like the positions I'm putting myself in. Like, man, I would never have done that if I wouldn't have been in this job. Like, met this YouTuber guy. His name is Jay Cation. Shout out JJ. He showed me kind of like how YouTube worked, and that's what I'm diving into now. But I met him, and he's super cool. Like you see him on camera, he gets like 22,000 followers on YouTube on San Diego, and I'm like, dude, I would have never met you if I never was interested in real estate.
That's right.
Like, so that's kind of been my experience with, you know, the people I come across. It's insane.
When did you dive into this, and how did it all kind of go about? Let's circle it back to mental health. Yeah. I know it's a huge risk to just drop a secure job and be like, I'm going to go all in on myself.
For sure.
How was that?
So, I mean, when I first started real estate,
what'd you do before?
3 years ago, I was a janitorial manager. So I had various accounts where I'd oversee teams cleaning hotels. And the reason I stuck with that job for so long is they gave me opportunity from the very get-go and responsibilities. Like I'm a 19-year-old and I have 3 separate teams, and I get paid a really good salary without finishing college. Like I was still going to community college. I wasn't sure if I wanted to stick with that. And so that was really secure for the last 7 years. You know, there's ups and downs about working for someone else, and that's kind of its own topic on its own. But I realized I needed a backup plan because I knew it wasn't going to last, and I didn't want someone else's. I just never felt comfortable someone telling me what I was going to get paid. Right. And I felt like I would put in so much work and so much time, and I'm just, anytime I would ask for something, it felt like I was taking. I'm like, no, man, I'm working for this. Yeah. Like I'm working for your business, and I'm bringing in this revenue, and I was already smart enough to do the numbers on my own. So I'm like, forget it. We're going to exit strategy. And I've always set myself up where I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to school for real estate. It took me about a year to get that done, and then, you know, get the licensing exam done. Once I got those things completed, I'm like, cool, I got real estate to, you know, be on the backup, but I was always scared to commit myself fully.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where you're like, yeah, I'm just going to quit my like salary job and that's it. Like, I'm not going to expect a paycheck every 2 weeks. That was weird to me. I'm like, no, I can just double up.
Yeah.
And you can't do real estate and do something else, at least not well.
No.
So COVID was like that change for me where literally in an instant, my job was taken away from under me. And I even thought to myself, I'm like, man, I don't even know if real estate, like, am I going to be showing houses? Am I going to sell houses? Are people going to want to sell? Are people going to want to buy? Like, I thought the economy was crashing. I was like, well, got savings. I'm going to throw everything into storage and I'm going to, downsize. And then a month later, I start realizing, I'm like, oh, people still want to see homes despite the pandemic. So it just very quickly from there, I realized there was an opportunity. I was like, all right, this is my chance to show myself I can do it. If not, we can just always apply to jobs if it doesn't work out. But I'm not going back.
I think you brought up a pretty cool point that I kind of have seen with myself, but I haven't really like touched on it, is you get what you put in. Mm-hmm. Like if I'm having a slow month, it's a slow month, but it's like, okay, maybe I just didn't do enough to, now you can't really like blame yourself, because sometimes it's just not happening. But you can do other stuff. For example, like, okay, you don't have any houses that you're going to show, so then you're going to go out and cold call, or you're going to meet people. Whereas myself, like, same thing. I don't have any jobs, so let me go out to local businesses. Let me work on stuff that I've been putting off. And a lot of the times that whole, you can either take that insecurity as like, oh my God, I'm screwed. I'm going to die. I have no money, no food. Or, oh, I could probably be screwed right now. Let me go get mine. Let me, headhunt some people. Let me.
Oh, for sure.
All that stuff. How does that take a toll on your mental health?
Oh man, because
that can be rough.
It's like in waves. So when it's funny, you'll get like this wave of like business, and the thing that has been really hard is figuring out like what can I do consistently and what should I do consistently, because you have deals going through and you earn a pretty good living as a real estate agent when you sell one house. Imagine selling a couple in a month, and it's like, man, I'm set up for like the next year. Like I can literally just not do anything. But that's, if you want to be successful, you got to do the things every single day, regardless if you're successful or unsuccessful. And recently, I've had like really bad like reluctance to do anything. Like sometimes it seems so overwhelming because you're looking at it a big picture. You're like, oh man, I gotta cold call like 1,000 people this month to get like this many houses appointments to help people sell homes, or I gotta show these buyers like limited inventory and like they're gonna go against 20 other people. And if you start looking at it from that angle, you're never gonna want to do it. Right. And so I've had to pull myself out and like, okay, what are the actions? All right, 9/11 I cold call because I need to meet new people that are interested, offer them value. And then from 11 to 12, I'm going to have, downtime. From 12 to 2, I'm going to go do some videos. I'm going to do my reels, like the things I've been doing more recently. And so time blocking for me has helped my mental health. I think it's just like, just follow the plan. Everything will work out. Trust the plan. Don't look at the what ifs, the positives, the negatives.
What you're not doing.
Exactly. Yeah. So that has helped me recently. And obviously having people who are along the same mindset, like, when I cold call, I go on a Zoom with other people who do the same thing in their area, and we're all hyping each other up. Yeah. And if we have a loss, like, get over it, dude. Move on. The answer is always more. It's never less.
Damn.
Yeah.
See, I think this is why I like to kind of, I know we don't hang out all the time or whatever, but I kind of like to have that, even on social media, have that circle of people that are always doing stuff. I texted you the other day. I was like, dude, you're blowing up. Like, It was just, it's crazy. We were talking about growth earlier, and seeing, for those of you that can hear the stuff in the background, I work at a gym. Get over it. It's just like, I went on the video that you and I filmed, and that has like 1,000 views.
It has 1,000 views now.
And like, even though that we're so used to seeing 800,000, 1 million views, all that stuff, like, dude. And I've told you this before. I think I've told you this. Imagine 1,000 people in a room. Like, that's a lot of people. And that's a lot of, and with YouTube, that's a lot of growth. That's a lot of potential customers. What did that switch to for you? that kind of switch over to YouTube?
So, I mean, okay. And that's from January, right? Like it's 1,000 views in January. And when I first uploaded that video, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to be immediate because I don't know. Like I didn't really understand the stuff behind it, but I've always had YouTube in the back of my mind. Like when YouTube first came out, I was addicted to it. Like I was a kid who was always on YouTube. I learned how to play guitar on YouTube. I learned how to play piano on YouTube. Dude, I YouTube everything. So I've always been I always take in, and I'd always say, I'm going to make a YouTube. And it was a dream for like 12 years. And then finally I was just like, well, I got the money now.
Yeah.
So I got to hire this out. And that's when you and I met. I'm like, dude, I got to get on video. I got to get comfortable. And I was really, I mean, when we do our shoots, I was like, was that okay? Can I do it again? Oh, man.
I'm like, dude, no, it's great. It's great. And I'm so like chill and just kind of want people to find their own rhythm that I was just like, yeah, that's fine.
Dude, I loved it. No, and that honestly gave me the confidence to keep going, because there would be times, man, I felt like crap. Like we'd meet, and the only reason I showed up was because you were showing up. Like, you know, having someone hold you accountable, and that for me was what helped me continue. And then once I saw like what it would do to the people I knew, like on Instagram and Facebook, and how they ate it up, I'm like, oh, dude, I have so many ideas that can totally change how we view YouTube. Yeah. So I want to reach new people. That's my goal.
Nice. What's it like being a real estate agent, realtor, or whatever you want to call it?
It's stressful, dude. No, I'm just kidding.
But just being in that like kind of, I want to more look at it as from the outside. Like when I tell people, oh, I'm a photographer and cinematographer,
for sure,
they're just kind of like, oh, another one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And I feel like with real estate and all that, you always hear real estate right now, and investing is like one of those things where you go, oh, another one.
Yeah.
You know?
It's true. It's like, oh yeah, my mom, my dad does real estate. Oh, yeah. I'm a real estate agent. Exactly. It's so funny, dude.
I got my thing for well, it was like on Step Brothers, where he's like, yeah, bro, I got my real estate license for shits and gigs. And it's like, that's such a funny way to like put it. But just like with someone can buy a camera,
right,
take a photo and go, oh my God, I'm a professional. I'm gonna throw this what's it called? This filter on it. Oh my God, now it looks even better. And someone just hired me. Oh my God, I'm a professional. And it's like, okay, sure. I don't want to talk down on anyone, but a lot of the times we look at these professions just like that. Do you get that when you tell people?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. I get people who are like, oh yeah, how many years? How many sales? You look young. You look really young. I've had weird things. I had someone, when I went to an appointment to sell a house one time, he talked to me over the phone. It was a cold call, literally. And he was just like, hey, I like you. I think you should come over and check it out. Don't sell me on anything, because I'm not going to sign anything. He ended up liking me. But I show up and he's like, you're Danny? I'm like, yeah, I'm Danny. I mean, I sound pretty professional over the phone, you know? And he sees me and I'm clean shaven and I look a lot younger, and he's like in his 60s. And he's like, do you have any credentials to show me that you're a real estate agent? And dude, I came dressed to the T. I kind of expected that just from the way he looked at me. And dude, I did not hesitate. I'm like, here you go. Here's my license.
Yeah. Yep.
After that appointment, he's like, what are the next steps? Like, because I know what I'm doing. And it's like, you got to show people, and you can't let their initial reaction, like, I'm already there. What am I going to do? Like, convince them that I'm old enough to sell his house? Like, I don't even let that stray away from what I know. Like, I know I can help you. It's either you think I can, or, you know, if you find someone who can, but I'm going to give it my best shot.
Right. Yeah. The age thing, man.
The age thing is hard. Yeah. A lot of people use that as an excuse too.
But then it's like, if you're too old, you're too old. And if you're too young, you're too,
what constitutes something.
Exactly. What constitutes is like I had someone who, there was a miscommunication. I think I've talked about this before, but there was a miscommunication, and you know, it was one of those situations where you're like, all right, there's no winners and there's no losers, because miscommunication, we all messed up. And I got told like, well, you know, you're young, and I don't expect you to like know what it's like to speak to people in the business. And I was just like, I was like biting my tongue, and I knew what I wanted to say, but I was like, don't be rude, be professional. And then in the back of my head, I was like, you're kind of putting me in this box of young, quote unquote, young, stupid people. Why don't I just act that way?
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, you can't, because And that's something that you kind of, for those of you that maybe want to get into real estate, want to get into anything, and you're young, dude, we're the future. Like, we know trends.
You know what? It's so funny that you say that, because I'm always like, 50 years in the business. Like, you're 1 year closer to stepping out. Like, I'm going to be that much longer in the business. And I don't say that in a way where I hope. I'm like, it's just the fact.
Yeah,
like, you're going to have to retire at some point, and I'm going to be there. But granted, I mean, I've seen people work up into their 80s and 90s, and I respect the hustle, man. If you still have life in you, and that's what keeps you going, like, keep going.
Exactly.
That what you said, labeling, like, people label you all the time, right? You're a real estate agent. All you care about is sales or this, and like, I don't even, dude, like, when I talk to people, I literally do not even bring up I'm a real estate agent, because I have all that stuff working for me in the background. If someone asks me, like, what do you do? I'm like, I help people find homes. Like, I help people sell their homes and find homes.
Right.
But I don't make it like a sales thing anytime someone meets me. And there are people like that ruin it. Whatever. Like, what am I going to do? Worry about them?
And you know what? It's going back to the age thing.
Yeah.
It's the people that paved the way for us that were the salesman with the oversized suit. It's sweaty and stuff. Hey, how you doing? Can I don't know if you watch the Simpsons, but there's a guy on there named Gil, and he's always like, he's got the top buttons undone, and he's always the car salesman. Frizzy hair. And he's just like, let old Gil help you out, and then he always ends up like screwing up. Those were the salesmen from back then, and like now we are the ones that experience that with our parents and stuff, and we know, like, when I'm in sales, I'm like, that's just what I do.
Everyone is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for example, like when you and I talked, I was like, well, what do you want to do? What's your vision?
Yeah.
And then you would tell me, and I'd say, okay, then I can give you this, blah, blah, blah. Instead of, no. You want to do this. You're going to do this. This is how much it costs. That's it. And you go, okay.
I don't know if I want to do that. Yeah.
Exactly. And you kind of get pushed into that. And that's what the old, no offense, but that's what the old salesman used to do.
Yeah.
Like, we're not like that.
Well, you had no choice back then. We have Google search. I Google you, and like, I Google a bunch of different people, and I got so many options at my fingertips.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting, man. That's it's true. We have a certain image of somebody in their role and how they should act based on what other people have told us. And now you can either redefine that, or you can fit into that role.
Exactly.
And I think with real estate, with what you do, with what any profession does, if you can redefine it and make it your own, people will always be like, dude, he's known for this. I'm going to hit him up for that specifically.
Exactly.
It could be the YouTube. It could be the Instagram. It could be the TikTok. I know lots of people who succeed on Pinterest or like different things that you'd be like, who cares about that stuff? And it's like, dude, they kill it. There's no one way to do something. Just stick to one and then work your way from there. That's how I think that I need to go, because I used to be sporadic. I got short attention span, and I'm like, cold call, then I'm like Facebook, and I'm like, sometimes I literally have to tell myself, stare like, you got to stand there and do that task for 2 hours, bro.
You have to be your own boss.
Yep, exactly.
Don't leave that spreadsheet, and you're like, fuck.
Yeah,
taxes coming up. Yeah, all right. We're gonna take a quick break though, and then I'm gonna put you in the hot seat. I'm gonna ask you some questions.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. Before we continue talking about life, I want to put you in the hot seat. I'm gonna ask you a bunch of different questions. Answer them to your best knowledge. You ready?
Got it.
What's your motivation? Good start. What's your motivation to get up every day?
What is my motivation to get up every day? I thought you said this was easy.
I told you it ranges.
Yeah, you know what? For me, I think that I wake up and I'm like, I gotta work out. I gotta go to the gym. And luckily I have 2 dogs that wake up at 5:45 on the dot. So even if I don't want to wake up, dude, I have to wake up to feed them, take them out. So that's pretty motivating.
So I guess. All right. Okay. Next question. Favorite hot food.
Favorite hot food, dude. I love pasta.
Love pasta,
dude. I just love Italian.
Ton of cheese. Favorite cold food.
Cold food. That's a good one, dude. Let's go for salad.
Favorite animal.
Dogs.
Biggest obsession at the moment.
YouTube.
Last song you listened to.
Misty by Ella Fitzgerald.
What's the best advice you've been given?
Focus on actions, not long-term results.
Oh, that's a good one, dude. Say that again.
Focus on actions, not long-term results or results in general.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Worst advice you've been given?
Don't get into real estate.
That's a good one. What's your life motto?
I don't think I have a life motto. Just do it, baby. Nike.
Nike. Just do it.
Shout out Nike.
In your opinion, what's the source of happiness?
Wow, dude.
Told you. I just asked
Uppercut.
you about
Jab. Is he out yet?
I just told you about, or I just asked you about hot and cold food, and then I went, what's the source of happiness? You're like, oh shit. All right.
Wow. You know what? I don't know, man. That's a hard question. You know what? I feel it whenever I play music, like when I play my guitar or my piano, I just feel, it's that feeling. More of that.
Yeah.
Or videos, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
just I think those, honestly though, going into music, did you ever see those videos where people would play, or like, I don't know, they do some sort of like vibration, and then they had sand on the table, and the sand would make like a shape.
I feel like I've seen. Oh yeah.
It's
I know
like
what
on
you're
a
talking
table,
about. Yeah.
and
It's
then
like it's a glass and stuff.
Yeah, and then they do different sound ranges, and it makes like a shape.
It's weird.
If you don't know what we're talking about, look it up. Just look up like sand shapes or something. But you know when you're listening to something and you get the chills, I'm pretty sure that's what goes like into like those sound waves. I'm pretty sure that's what goes into like your body. And then going off of what you're saying with like that just makes you happy. Like I'm pretty sure.
Dude, I'm telling you, like it's unreal. Like when there was a few weeks ago, I went to do karaoke night with my dad, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so. I'm like, it's 1 a.m. and I don't even care.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Yeah, that's a good point.
So then the next one kind of goes off of that. What's your favorite quote unquote little thing? You know when people go, it's all about the little things, like a nice cup of coffee, nice beer.
Dude, coffee is insane. The little things. Fuck you, Felix. Yeah, just laughing, man. Just laughing. I love to laugh.
Good
I love
laugh,
to, yeah.
Dude. Good gut, like
yeah.
good guttural laugh. I love that. Who's a famous person you fight with no hesitation?
What?
Mine's Ross from Friends.
Man.
What's his name? Michael Schumer. Fuck you, Michael Schumer. Just hate his face.
I think the guy who left a big dump on Michael Scott's floor. I don't know who the actor is, but dude,
he plays. What's his name? What's his name in the show?
Packard. That's what his name was.
Really?
Dude. Yeah.
You fight him?
Yeah, I would fight him, dude. He just has an annoying face.
I'm gonna look his name up. So those of you that want to look this up, it's Todd Packer. His real name is David Kushner. Kushner?
Oh man, we're putting out hits on people.
Yeah. Really? He was on Anchorman too? Did you watch him in Anchorman? No? He's champ in Anchorman.
Dude, I'm going to tell you, that scene when they found it and left Kevin in the office was like the most hilarious. I could not, dude. I had to stop it. Every time I think about it.
He's like, I can't do it. I can't. He's like, what is it? What is it? I love that show. All right. So that guy. What's something you hate hearing as a real estate agent?
It's not one specific thing, but when people aren't specific as to why they're just unclear as to their, like, for instance, we've decided to stop looking, and you ask, like, why? Like, just out of curiosity, why? They're like, nothing. Like, no feedback. So that's like the most frustrating thing, where I'm like, dude, I'm cool. Like, if you're done looking, just what specifically has you not looking?
Right.
And they're like, it's just blank. I'm like, okay, well, move on to the next.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. That's the only frustrating thing.
What about from like outside people?
Outside people. Oh, like just day to day.
Day to day. People that have no idea about real estate.
People who are. Oh, wait. What do you mean? Oh, just personal side.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Okay.
Yeah, like,
okay.
oh, I heard real estate guys are douchebags. Like stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, like, okay. So on the industry as a whole.
Sure.
Okay.
Just anything, man.
I was just gonna say like, the most frustrating thing for me is when people just don't get it. Like when you're sitting in a room and you're saying some like hateful stuff, and like you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, there's
Hateful stuff.
You know what I mean? Like someone says something insensitive that they know they're gonna offend somebody, or they should know, and it's just like, you're not aware.
You're not thinking.
Like, do you realize there's people in this category that might fit that? You know, and I'm just like,
dang.
That's frustrating for me. Like I'm always aware of like how people are feeling, and it's just always a thing that I picked up very early on in life. And I'm just like, dude, how do you just not get it? Like, why are you saying these things out loud?
Yeah.
Like obviously you're gonna get a reaction, get confused while you get into like arguments. It's like, oh, wake up.
I hate working with people. No, I love it. But yeah, you get those people that you're like, hey man. And then you look around like, is anyone going to say anything?
Man, I've heard, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, last question. This is a big one.
Okay.
Guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Give me an example, man, because this is drawing blanks right now.
What's one for me? Guilty pleasure for me is probably like, shit. Some people say reality TV. I feel like for me it would be like a large amount of sweets at night.
Oh, I see.
Like my guilty pleasure at night is just getting like 5-6 cookies.
Yeah.
And breaking them up, throwing them in the
pounding them down.
Yeah, throwing them in the microwave, taking them out, and then just putting a big thing of ice cream.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, but it's so bad. And I wake up the next day just feeling like ass, dude.
Yeah, your stomach's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, don't do that again.
I know.
And then the next day you're like,
ice cream. Some nice vanilla ice cream on top of chocolate chip. But yeah, guilty pleasure.
You don't got that?
Yeah. No, that's one thing I don't have in here.
Pizza, dude. Like Neapolitan, New York style, Chicago style. Like I love pizza. Don't give me Costco. Don't give me Domino's. Pizza. Like I'm like, no,
you're picky with pizza.
I'm bougie.
Huh?
I'm bougie.
What's your top pizza place?
So we used to go to the place Siamo Napoli in North Park. There is Bruno's up in like Hillcrest area. And like we're always looking for new pizza spots. Like so, like we used to do this like at least once every 2 weeks. And it's so bad. Like you shouldn't be eating that much pizza.
Yeah,
because then like
you're gonna
especially
get
when you're like eat pretty healthy, and then you put all this like bread in you, and you're like your stomach's like, dude, that hurts so bad, but it tasted so good. And then like an hour later, you're looking at the same pizza like leftover. Like, let me test it again. Yeah, that's my guilty pleasure.
Pizza. Have you been to what's it called? Buena Forchetta.
Oh, bro,
they have amazing
South Park and
Yeah.
Sanitas. They got. I think they have one in like downtown area.
They have one in Liberty Station.
Oh, that's right, Liberty Station.
Locals, dude. Look up. It's spelled BUONNA FORCETTA. I probably forgot something.
Forchetta.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Their pizza's incredible. Like and I always feel bad. You know when you don't want to be that guy that goes to like a Mexican food place and goes, "Do you have chicken fingers?" Like you don't want to be like a 2-year-old. But just pizzas in like Italian restaurants.
Yeah. Oh, dude, and it's insane. Like I remember going to South Park and there'd be lines out the door, and I'm like, I don't want to wait. Yeah. And then I'd see the pizza come out, and then like the owner just walking around yelling at their employees. I'm like, I love it. I love it. I'm like, she knows how to keep this pizza pristine.
It's like the Chinese food places where they have like the woman at the booth who's like doing all the silverware stuff, and you walk in, they're like, "Oh, sit anywhere," and you're like, "Oh, this place is gonna be bomb."
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the time. It's like, oh, it looks a little crummy. That's a good sign of the Chinese places.
Dude, one time I walked into one that my grandparents used to frequent, and there was a lady just like dead sleep with her hand in her pants, a neck pillow, and just dead asleep in a booth, like, and just the most, like, you could tell this lady was exhausted.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this place it's pretty bomb. I found a couple hairs, but it's pretty bomb.
Hopefully not from that region.
Yeah, I know. They weren't too curly, so it's all good. Oh man. So Danny, I want to talk to you about kind of your way of thinking, your lifestyle thinking. You're very much into like not self-help, but just self-betterment.
Yeah.
I guess. It's hard to find people our age. How old are you?
26.
26. We're the same age.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to find people our age that are already thinking like that.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
I've found, which is really sad. When did you start thinking that way? Let me start off by like, what do you kind of believe in? That's a very blanket question,
like,
but
what do you believe in?
Like, I believe in the universe. If you're good, it's good to you.
So one thing that I was always brought up to believe is what you give is what you'll get back. And that was so ingrained into me that it's just something that I always look to do, whether it's with words or with things. And I used to think it was more financial more than anything else, especially when you're first starting to work. I'm like, oh, people just want you to buy them things and show them that you appreciate them and take your boys out. And then I realized more and more, I'm like, dude, that stuff doesn't last. And if anything, you can hurt people with that type of stuff.
Yep.
So just starting with like the self-improvement aspect, like so I didn't grow up with all these lavish things. I didn't really get everything I wanted, and we struggled pretty hard as a family. So I think that when I turned 7, when I realized, dude, I can work and I can get a check. And like, I remember I was 17 years old. I got my first check from a fast food restaurant, KFC. Shout out Convoy.
Shout out Convoy, KFC, baby.
And they gave me a cooking position, man. And I can't even tell you, it was the only job I applied to and got. And I didn't even know my friend worked there. I could have got it like a referral, but I got it on my own.
Ooh, I don't even know.
Oh, me bragging about KFC.
I don't even know, but there it is. I turned it way too far down. Sorry. There we go. That sounds better. Anyway, keep going.
And it's funny because when I got that job, they're like, yeah, you'll be a cashier. And then he calls me. He's like, dude, I lost a cook. And I'm like, yeah, I'm down. Like, whatever, man. I got a job. I was already stoked to get it. And I worked like 40 hours in my first week. It's like the first time I've ever worked. And I'm like, I loved it, dude. I loved it. I was just like, I can't believe I'm making money. And then when I got my first check, it was like $256 for a week's work. And I'm like, oh my God, my life is about to change. Dude, I'm telling you, like when the
first paycheck hits, man.
Well, you don't dude, I never had that much money at one time. I've never had that much money at one time. And I was just like, I'm just going to work. And they loved me because I was just always working like 6 days a week. 5. I didn't care. I just immersed myself into the work. And I was going to community college. I was working there. And so I was just like, I need to get better. Like, if I can make more money than this, because I knew getting paid minimum wage, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I knew just the experience was important. And just continuing, like, oh man, like, all right, they gave me a raise because I became a supervisor, 25 cents, by the way, to manage a freaking business. I don't think so.
That's awful.
I was just like, all right, I got to find a different job.
That's awful.
And then that led me to the cleaning job that I stuck with for 7 years, and then real estate. So I've only really had 3 jobs up until this point. But each time I've immersed myself in books. I've talked to a lot of people. I picked the brains of people who are older than me. Like, I've always sought out ways, and I still do to this day. Like, hey, like, Felix, what do you think about like video and stuff? Where do you think that's going? What should I focus on? And anyone I meet, I'm always trying to like extract as much information. And that's just how I guess when you come from not much, you just want to learn how to get the things that you're not used to getting, you know?
Yeah. Well, you also are used to going out and getting things. Like, you weren't really handed anything in your life.
Right.
Because I was the same way. Like, I always kind of had to, if we wanted that PlayStation 2, like, we had to do some yard work for it.
For sure.
And those little things kind of I take to life now. But I think it's also like you've kind of checked your ego, where you're like, okay, I have to ask for help. I feel like a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't ask for help. A lot of people don't. That's why there's people that need therapy out there, but they're like, I don't need it. I don't think I need it.
No.
And that's one of the things I realized during COVID, that I was reaching out to people because that's what I was used to. And people that normally weren't in the situation that they were just sitting at home, like, going crazy.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting that you say that. Like, I think, COVID either turned things like for the better for people or made it worse. And especially if you were already like, going down a hole, like, COVID didn't make it any better without having like your normal job to be distracted by, or going out or doing your mean, some people really had to take a look inside, including myself, man. Like there's things that I'm like, man, I'm like, there's some things that felt empty and that I had to figure out, and that there's no shame in that. Like I think if people were more real about it, people would feel more comfortable to reach out. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously, you know, you don't have to put all your business out there, but just like, I had a hard week, or I had a hard day. You don't have to say all the time, like, everything's great on the up and up. It's all smiles and laughs. And if it's not, I've learned that more recently than like ever. Like, I think more now, I'm more open with how I feel, because if I am more open, I can at least accept it and change things to move on. And I think people are scared to like look in the mirror and be like, hey, like, I think it's time to just reach out for some help.
And even if it's like a subtle, there's so many moving pieces to this. I know some people just are like, well, my friends don't want to listen. You got to get new friends. But also 100%. They need to understand that sometimes I have friends that will hit me up and I'll be like, I don't really feel like talking right now. I'm kind of going through something. They're like, oh, do you need anything? And I'm like, no, what's going on? And I'm like, I really don't want to talk about it. Yeah. That's fine. Yeah. Then they'll check in later. Yeah. I think people should be more like that. Are you the type of person that people go to?
Yeah, I mean, if I have, so that's the thing. Like over the years, your friends start to change, and your group gets smaller and smaller because you realize like what type of friends you have around you. And I've always been an introvert. Like I've always liked to be at home and be in my own space, and you know, just do my own thing. But now, as I grow, you know, as I get older, I'm looking for that interaction. I'm looking for those close friends. But I don't want the mundane, like, we're homies, but we can't talk about real shit. Like, if we can't talk about real stuff, you're probably not a friend. Mm-hmm. But if I have a friend, they know they can reach out to me. I 100%. Hope they do. And if they don't, this is me saying, like, you can reach out to me. And anytime someone tells me something they're struggling with, I really try to at least let them know they're being heard. Yeah. I don't have to offer a solution, but at least I hear you. I hear what you're saying. If you want my opinion, I'll give it to you. If not, I'll just listen.
What's a hard week of real estate look like?
My God, man. It's
like what, like, the end of the weeks where you're just like, oh my God, I need a drink.
Oh, dude. Like, so it's more so like when you're actually going through the process. So it could take anywhere from 20 to 31 days or 21 to 30 days to actually get your home. And when I'm helping people through the process, when it's their first time, and I'm seeing everything, I'm like, oh, this, everything looks pretty good, and then there's a bump in the road somewhere. There's always a bump in the road. Like, no matter, like, I don't know if I'm being negative or whatever, but I'm always just like, there's always something. So you're always
going to wait for something.
Just watchful. Just, I'm not like, oh, you guys need to worry about this. But negotiations are like brutal. Like, they're brutal, man, because you're like working with someone on the other side who you might not have worked with, like another agent who's helping someone sell their house. Their best interests are those sellers. My best interests are my buyers. And we're like, hey, there's some things that we uncover that need to be fixed. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Yeah. But then it's just managing expectations, teaching people what's standard, what's not, what I would recommend. I've told people, walk away, man. Walk away. There's more homes out there. We don't need to deal with something that's going to impact you for the next 15 years of your life or 30 years of your life, however long you stay there. I guess people make it harder. Like, other real estate agents make our jobs harder, especially when they don't know what they're doing. Yeah. And so that's the one thing that I'm always like, man, I hate real estate agents.
I hate us.
I literally, like, me and my friends will talk about it all the time. Like, dude, like, so 80% of people who first join the business in their first 2 years are meant to drop out. Like, they're no longer a real estate agent. They quit. They go back to their job. The 20% that stay are the ones who do all the volume, like the ones killing it. I'm not quite at that level yet, but I'm going to get there. And it's just interesting to me that there's a small percentage of people who are actually successful and know what they're doing. 80% of people do like 1 or 2 deals, a year, or whatever the average is. I think it's 4. And that's all you'll hear about them. Yeah. And never see them again. So, I mean, just dealing with other people who are just don't know what they're doing.
That's how life is, I feel like. Yeah. And especially now, I'm looking to kind of start another podcast, one that's a little bit more fun and just kind of pop culture type of just bullshitting. And we're looking for names, me and my friend that I'm going to do it with. And we looked at something like, at the end of the day or something like that. And there was like maybe like 15 podcasts named that. And I looked through all of them. They had like 24 reviews, maybe 6.
Right.
And they had like 4 or 5 episodes. And you can tell that they just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Like they either got quote unquote busy or they just didn't make it a priority. But there's so many things that like, even with this, people are always like, why are you doing it? I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wow, do you have any sponsors or anything? And I'm like, I haven't even been doing it for a year. So if I stop and think about that, just like what you were saying, think about, what was the quote you said? Think about the
actions.
The actions, not the
results.
Not the final results.
Yeah.
If I'm just thinking about like, well, I'm going to be rich off this thing.
Right.
It's like, I'm not going to go anywhere. And when I say that, people are just kind of like, well, you're wasting your time. I'm like, no, I'm filling my time with something. What am I going to be doing right now? Either work or nothing.
Exactly. What else can I do?
Exactly.
It's like, if you're not going to do anything, do something. And that's better than doing nothing.
Exactly.
That's 100% real. And I think people are just impatient and we have instant gratification. And I'm the same way. Like, I don't see results in a day and I'm like, oh,
dude, what? I've worked out twice now. Why aren't I freaking buff, dude?
Exactly. And that's another thing, man. Like, it just being consistent. Just stay consistent and trust that what you're doing and fine tune it as you go along the way. Like, one thing that I'll do specifically for my video marketing, when the stuff on YouTube that I do, or Instagram Reels, like my first video was crap and it still got like whatever because Instagram's pushing it out, but it got better each and every time because I'm like, how do I refine it? How do I make it better? I'm like, think back to what you said, look at your video again. And I'm like, okay, next time I will do this.
Yeah.
And those little improvements over the course of years, dude, you're insane. People are going to look at you and like, now you're creating stuff that no one's ever done.
Right.
And that's where I want to be. And I think that's where you want to be with your podcast is I'm going to get a podcast that's going to be so successful because of the little things that I do every day.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if this is going to be the most successful or I'm really not thinking, like I said, I'm really not thinking about results, that.
Yeah.
But yeah, people just expect you to kind of be like, if you do something that takes your time and you invest in,
dude,
it's got to have a return right now. It's like,
oh, bro, I've met some people who are like have like high expectations because of what you're doing. Like, oh, like you know, how much do you close this month? How much you close that next month? I'm like, what are you doing? Like, it's like, why are you so worried about me? Yeah. Like, look at your own stuff.
Are they in your industry?
No. So like people who look from outside in and they're like, oh, isn't that like just sitting in a room cold calling all day? Isn't that what a real estate agent is? I'm like, no, it's not.
It's always the people that don't like.
Yeah, but they don't know.
They either don't know or just don't understand.
Or give you unwanted advice or want to imprint their insecurities on you. They're like, hey, you look like you're on the up and up. Let me just throw something at you. Yeah. I hate people like that. I can't stand it. I'm just like, I'll listen to it and I'll be like, hey, thanks. I think I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, you do this? And they're like, no. Great.
Oh, you know what's so funny? I actually had a friend, a really close friend of mine. He was just like, man, what are you talking about in your videos? Why'd you talk about the traffic? That is weird. He knows who if he ever watches this, he's going to start laughing. But he literally was telling me like, you need like, what the hell, dude? There's so many things. Like, we don't come here for that stuff. And I'm like, how many videos did you do? Yeah. I'm like, do you know what it's like being in front of a camera?
Yeah.
I'm like, you want to be my videographer? You want to try it out? You want to run and edit these things? Or
well, in your video, you can go ahead and do that. I usually do that. I go, well, in your video, and they go, what do you mean I don't have it? Exactly. Well, in your podcast, you can go ahead and format it like that. And they're like, I don't have. Oh, I'm an asshole, but
that reminds me. So I have a friend who does that, where he does that thing. He goes, hey, because I work from home now. I don't know if you knew that, but I don't have an office anymore. I switched companies, and I was like, I'm going to work from home, set up my own office space, kind of similar to what you have here.
Nice.
And my friend was just like, he's like, that's a bad decision. And fast forward, I'm like, dude, I just don't have anywhere to shoot my video at because I'm at home. And he's like, well, why don't you go to your off? Oh. And I looked at it and I'm like, just because of that, I'm going to look for that place now.
That's what I do.
But dude, that's exactly like that. He's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to send this link over and be like, hey, dude, scroll to this part.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially when you put your work out there, like photography, videography.
Yeah.
Everyone always has something to say, and it's like, oh, why didn't you do this? Oh, why didn't you do that? And I'd be like, oh my goodness. Or like, I'm gonna call her out. My girl does this a lot. She's like, oh, or used to. She actually stopped, but she used to be like, oh, what I would have done is blah blah blah. Oh, what I would, and I'd be like, oh shoot, just like really sell it. I go, dang it, and she go, what? Freak, and she'd be like, what? I don't remember asking you. I think that takes a moment. Oh my God. That takes a moment of like you having just being blood red mad.
I love that.
And being sarcastic and being like, all right, whatever.
That's so funny. My girlfriend also does this. Like when I actually ask her for her feedback, and some things she says, like, I think it's because she's my girlfriend. I'm like, please don't say that. Like there'll be times where I'll have a loss and I'll just want to tell her about it, but I don't want to hear like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, like it's gonna be. I'm like, look, I already went through that, I'm done. And she's like, okay, that's fine,
just
here's a beer.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, we're gonna take another quick break. I want to talk about motivation with you, because it's something I've been struggling with lately, so we'll be back. So last week I didn't release an episode because I honestly didn't make time for it. Lately I've kind of been just lately I've been not in a rut, but just I've hit that thing where I always want more. I'm always looking to get more.
Yeah.
And when I don't get more, then I'm like, all right, what's going on?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just kind of spinning my wheels and just the motivation is not there. Do you ever hit those?
Yes.
We all do.
This past weekend, I actually had one of those moments where I was just so crushed. And I'll give you inside details because no one ever wants to admit this, but you can't work with everyone, right? There's just people that you're just never going to get across, no matter, just because of who you are and maybe not mesh with what they're looking for, or you don't deliver in a certain way. And so I had worked with this particular client who, they first moved here. They were renting short term. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll keep in touch. I gave them the lowdown on San Diego, and they after a year did my follow up because I did my sales, and they're like, we're ready. Cool. We get them in the process, start looking at homes, put in their first offer, and showing them homes, and then randomly, out of nowhere, this past Friday, they were like, hey, Danny, we decided to explore other options, and we thank you for everything. We've learned so much from you, but we're gonna go a different route now. And I'm just like, oh, dude. And it was like at 8 a.m. when I read it. They sent it the night before, and that day we were supposed to look at homes, and I'm like, why? Like, what did I do? What did I say?
Yeah.
And then I immediately was just like, what? Like let me just go back here. Like, I thought I did everything perfectly. I responded right away. Like, I was on top of it. And it was so crushing to me. I was just like, dude, like, immediately negative thoughts started coming to my mind. And I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I need to get a regular job. I'm not meant to do this. Like, and it's, dude, I'm so negative.
Yeah.
And then immediately what I did is I called up my friend, who is like as invested into me as I am into myself, and I'm invested in his business as much as he is. Right. So, like, when I texted him, I'm like, dude, just lost a client, man. Give me a call back. And he's like, oh shit, give me a sec. Hopped on a phone call, and like I vented it out, and he's like, let's make a plan, dude. What are you gonna do? He's like, what's the answer? What are you just gonna? He's like, sit on it. Like, no, let's talk about it. So we created a plan. We created a schedule. He's like, with what you're gonna do, you're gonna like 10 times what that person would have brought you in. And he's like, you're in a scarcity mindset instead of abundance. There's more clients for you out there. They just don't know you yet.
That's true.
You got to figure out a way to get to them. And this is the plan that we're going to framework. And I'm going to keep you accountable, and I'll be accountable. Yeah. So game planning with talking to someone who is like, dude, like, Felix, you can talk to me, man. You can call me. You're in a rut, dude. Let's talk about it. You know what I mean? I think that other people can help, especially people who understand. People who are like in the same grind that you're in. Like, sometimes you're just working aimlessly and it doesn't feel like anything's popping off.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, I don't know, man. Like, what am I doing?
Yep. I've actually, the owner of Iconic, Chris Cordova, give him a follow. He'll walk in here and just be like, "What's up, man? How's everything going?" And I'm just like, I'll just like spill my guts, and he's like, "Dude, I've been there before, blah blah blah," and he'll give me some stuff, and he'll give me some ideas, and yeah, it's going back to like the people in your circle are so important. Do you ever just wake up one day and like not want to do anything?
Yeah, all the time. There's like, I think last week was a time like I just had so much like just things weren't like flowing. You know, when you have some days you wake up and you kill the day, you work out on time, you eat on time, you get on the phones on time, you know, you go like you do everything that's perfect. And
like
then
it's only 11 o'clock. Wow.
Yeah, like I got so much done, and I could stop today, and I do more than in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's days where you just wake up and everything seems to be going wrong. You're getting bad news after bad news after bad news, and man, that stuff creeps in, and you're just trying to stay positive, and then one other thing happens, and those days are inevitable.
Yeah.
You need those negative days, and I've realized I'm like, this is gonna make me better. Like, it's only gonna make me better. Like, these losses are gonna teach me more than if I just sit here doing nothing. So I just use it as motivation. Like, you know, that sucks. I lost a client, but guess what? This morning I found 3 new ones. You know, like I get more like you just got to keep moving forward. Can't let these things get to you. But I think talking about it is the first step, because when you sit there with your thoughts and your thoughts are already negative, it's like, let's make this worse.
Yeah.
Let's make this like a saw maze. Like, you open that door, you just got through the door. Now we have like chainsaws just being like whacked around, you know?
It's, I think it's especially hard right now. We're kind of up on a year of this COVID thing. I don't care what policies you go into. I don't care whether you believe in it or you don't. It doesn't matter. We're all here in this thing. Mm-hmm. It's existing. And it's almost been a year. I saw something the other day. Oh, our 1 year anniversary is coming up of our 2-week COVID fix or something like that, or something like that, because it was supposed to quote unquote last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And, you know, a year later
we're still here. No.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, we're kind of still here, even though for some reason it seems like it's getting better, but then it's getting worse. And I think we've been getting beat up as a society for a year.
Yeah.
And we're exhausted. Yeah. And some of us are out there looking for conspiracy theories to make it make sense. Some of us are just kind of sitting at home. Other people finally start going back to work. That's I think it's affected us even if we don't know that. With your girlfriend, where you guys live together, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm the type of person, and we're a lot alike. I think that's why we get along. I'm the type of person that, like, once you get into that negative zone, you're kind of in there. Yeah. And sometimes I want to sit in it, and I'm going to sit in it and think about it and then get over it. Yeah. I know I'm going to get over it. How do you maintain that when you're living with someone, or like not maintain that, but I guess not let it affect them? It's hard. It's and I can't say that I'm perfect. It does. I mean, there's definitely days where I'm like, the way I feel is the way I interact. And sometimes if you don't state that up front to somebody and you're not ready to talk about it, but they're like, hey, like, you're off. Yep. What's up? I do that all the time. If I notice my girlfriend's like kind of like just short in a funk or short or something, I'm like, hey, what's going on with you? Yeah. You all right? Like, you've been a little short with me today. What did I do? It's like, what? I just woke up. Yeah. No, but it's just being aware, right? Like, not everyone has that emotional intelligence, and sometimes you can't expect someone to just know. So I think just like stating it, like, hey, I'm in a really bad mood. You know, I'm in a bad mood, and I don't want to talk about it, but I'm just in a bad mood. So if I seem off or just detached, that's the reason why I'm like stuck in my thoughts. And it's all you can do when you live with someone. Yeah. Yeah. They're like, well, she's the lucky one. Honestly, I think it's good that you communicate that, because I've been the guy that's been like, I just don't want to talk. Just don't feel like, and they're like, well, but why? Like, women are so smart. Like, women want to sometimes be like, I want to fix this. You know, guys have it a lot worse.
Yeah.
Because we're always like, well, just, you know, I'm sad. Don't feel sad. I'm so much better now. Thank you. We just want to constantly fix things. But when you're in a relationship and that significant other's like feels helpless, then they want to start like picking your brain and stuff. And sometimes you don't want or need that. So then you actually have to be like, please don't.
Oh, and
I'm good.
Don't get me wrong. Like I'll try to tell them what's up, or my girlfriend what's up. And you know, the previous
your girlfriend's nice.
No.
My girlfriend and my wife.
Scratch. She's not gonna watch this. No, she. I'll try to tell her, or girlfriends that I've had in the past where I've tried to communicate that something's wrong, but it just comes off in such the wrong way, and I'm working on it. I have to tell myself, it's not her fault that she doesn't know. She shouldn't know that I'm upset unless I tell her. Like, I gotta realize, like, it would be me. Like, why are you upset with me, or
exactly
like something else? Like, just tell me and I'll be cool.
Exactly.
So I just have to remind myself, like, we're all human. We all make mistakes, and if I don't say anything, that's my fault. If I don't ask for something specific that I'm looking for out of you, I shouldn't expect anything.
Exactly.
Some people expect too much, I think. They're like, I expect you because you're my, boyfriend or girlfriend, that you should be this way. And I'm like, no, you don't deserve anything.
Yeah, exactly. And it's selfish for you to be like, well, I'm expecting this from you. Nah.
Yeah.
This has been fun, man.
Yeah.
I feel like we got a lot of info out. This has been one of the more, I don't know, I'm going to think about this stuff later.
Yeah, cerebral.
Yeah, very cerebral.
Hey, well, thank you for joining us for our mind exercises.
Damn, dude, go for it. Where can people find you, man?
I'm on Instagram, danny.dq. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me pretty much on any social. You can TikTok, even though I don't understand it. Repost my videos on there. That's it.
I'm on there. Something I will have to say, Danny, is that your videos are super... They are kind of catered to people that want to move here, but I also learn stuff from it. The way you kind of talk about San Diego is like, it's not like, hey, check out these hotspots. It's like, yo, this is San Diego. These are some great options for San Diego. You don't have to go there, of course, but you're like, oh, I've never heard of this place.
Yeah.
For example, I think Kate Sessions, I knew about it, but I wasn't really like aware of how kind of a big place it was. And then you and I went there and we filmed, and I was like, oh, damn,
this is here?
Yeah, this is here.
PB.
Exactly.
Like, sometimes I'm like, that thing is on its own island. Like, you tell me Kate Sessions, I'm like, oh yeah, Kate Sessions, its own city and neighborhood. And
yeah, exactly. 100%. And you kind of learn about these little pockets of San Diego.
Right.
Which, I mean, I've been more or less not forced to, but with my job, I just tend to go to different places. And then from there, I'm like, I get obsessed with a place. I'm like, dude, North Park's sick.
Oh, yeah.
I want to go back. And then I'll go back and I found this place. Oh, I found this place. Oh, I found this. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness. But your videos do a really good job about just kind of exploring. People pay thousands of dollars to come here.
Yeah.
Like, we live in a vacation hotspot. Even if I live in Escondido, still. People come to Stone.
Temecula, dude. Temecula's down the 15 and
people go there exactly cross country to get married, to go to wine tours. Like,
so what blows my mind is when people visit here and they're like, you have palm trees, and I'm like, what? Like, where have you been? They're like, the East Coast, it's rainy, it's snowing, it's, there's sometimes of seasons of good weather, but not like this. Like, this is wintertime and you guys get 70s. And then the more I got into this business, I'm like, wow, I am lucky. I get to sell this. Yeah, that's cake, man. Well, it's hard to sell something that's like high price at the same time, where it's like, obviously the prices are going to be higher in California just because we're in California. That's the struggle. But when I sell like lifestyle, 100% I can sell you lifestyle.
And that's what people move here for. Yeah, I totally understand. I'm against like the house prices and all that and stuff, and like me trying to kind of go my way about this crazy world. I'm like, well, I want to buy a house someday, and then it seems nearly impossible. But when you kind of explore these different places and the amenities that we have, I mean, we have amazing weather year round. Hopefully that doesn't change. Climate change is real. But I'm just like, man, I live in San Diego. Like, that's freaking dope. I can go to Big Bear 2 hours away. I can go to Palomar Mountain if I want to go to the snow. I can go to the beach on the same day. Like, it's something that you kind of, a lot of us San Diegans don't really think about because it's our everyday life.
Yeah.
But when it's summer and it's a regular summer, not a COVID summer, and you hear people speaking Russian, you hear people speaking Spanish, and you hear,
beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's also really fucking annoying. But yeah, and then you transition into like fall, and you start seeing that stuff die down, and you start seeing the beaches kind of open up a little bit, and you're like, oh man, like this is amazing.
Oh man, like when I was talking to somebody and they're like, hey, what's there to do right now in like December time frame? I'm like,
what isn't there?
There used to be December nights. And I'm like, if you've never been to December nights, that's like Christmas for San Diego. Like that's like as close to Christmas with the like as cold as it's gonna get. And I would, every time I thought about like what don't we have? I'm like, I can't think of much. I don't know. I think it's never gonna. I think we're just gonna get more people and more people and more people, and I don't know. I'm in the right business because I get to showcase these things in my videos, and I think that's my whole mindset behind it was like, man, we live in a dope place, and a lot of people. So what I saw on YouTube was a lot of people standing in like with a backdrop and talking about San Diego and showing photos. I hate
the green screen.
I can't do that. I was like, and when I'm talking, I'm just talking like a robot. Like I did one video like that and I hated it. And I'm like, I'm never doing that again. Right. And I still have it up. By the way, it sucks.
Go dislike it.
No, don't do it. Hey, I need my analytics up. At least engage with it.
Just watch the whole thing and then critique it.
And when I was standing there, I'm just like, yeah, San Diego, pros and cons, weather, Anza Borrego, blah. And I'm like, no, Danny, no. So I'm like, let's go out. Let's go to Ocean Beach. Let's go to Sunset Cliffs. Let's show you PB. Let's show you Kate Sessions. Let's show you all the beautiful parts where they're like, I've never heard of that in San Diego. Like people don't even know about South Park. Yeah. Like, and I didn't know about South Park for a long time. And I'm like, dude, South Park is a gem.
Yeah. And a lot of these places are getting, gentrified. That's a different topic, but they're getting this kind of revamp. Yeah. I'll call it that. But
a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people think that, when like there's a new day, we don't complain that it's like, it's a new day and it's like, right. It's getting the day is getting gentrified. Change is inevitable, right? Like when we look back 5 years ago, it looked different. 10 years ago, it looked different. Escondido used to be a dirt lot, man. It really was hidden. I used to think like, what's in Escondido? Not much.
Gangs.
Dude, that seriously.
Yeah, gangs and homelessness was.
And a skate rink or something like that.
Yeah,
it's like a roller skate rink.
That's right, ups and downs. That was like a couple blocks from here.
My brother used to go. We used to pick him up and drop him off, and I never skated. And every time I go there, I'm like,
should have.
Might get shot.
yeah, dude. No, yeah. It's honestly Escondido. Growing up here, it was kind of a ghetto, and looking at it now, like it's weird because I used to always think like, man, I gotta get the fuck out of here, and I still think that way. But now I'm just like, dude, this is dope. Like this is a dope area. Like if you want to settle down and just kind of have some kids and have an okay looking house, do it.
Oceanside too. Oceanside used to be really bad. Like shell casings. I used to go to school in Oceanside and there's literally shell casings like near a trash can. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, those look like used rounds. Yeah. And there was like houses that were abandoned that would have gang members go in. And dude, I remember lockdowns. Yeah. Because they're trying to chase down some guy in a canyon who had a gun who robbed the place. Like, yeah, we've come a long way. I think gentrifying in that fashion, I think we're good. Yeah. I think we can a little less of that, please.
It's a little double-edged sword because you start getting all the older. But I mean, if you're not updating yourself, then I think let's circle this all the way back to what we were talking about, like the old salesmen and the old photographers, the old videographers that get in tiffs because they're like, well, if you have a client, then I don't have that client, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I've met so many people like that. And I'm like, dude, share the wealth, man. Like there's so much stuff and if you're good to me, I'll be good to you. And
We can all make it work.
We can all make it work.
There's enough for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Well, follow Danny on Instagram. Find him on YouTube. He's got some pretty good YouTube videos. And his reels are,
Appreciate it, man.
yeah, they're getting up there. No, they're great, man. You're doing a great job. I hate always saying that because I feel like I'm like patting a little kid on there. Great job.
Hey, that was good. From a videographer, would I have released that? Maybe not.
You just be like, this was great, but that's my favorite. No, your videos are awesome, and I've watched them, and I've watched them all the way through. So, yeah, you can find me at Mayorca Media. That's MAYORCAMEDIA. Thank you to today's sponsor, which is Popl. That's POPL.co. You get 15% off with code ThisLife, which is one word. That's it. Oh, leave a review and subscribe to the podcast. 5 stars. 5 stars. Danny, thank you so much for being on, man.
You got it, man. I appreciate being on. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this. Bye.